at a very young age, I was diagnosed with, it's called Mixed Expressive Receptive Disorder. And it has to do a lot with, for instance, like you asking me a question, I know exactly what you just said, but my mind won't let me process. I don't know how to explain this.
Like a misunderstanding or a miscommunication?
Like a misunderstanding. Like I know what you just said, but my mind doesn't let me express my answer to you a certain way. For instance, like right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my brain is trying to think how I can say it and how to get it out, and it won't come out.
Welcome back to the Own Your Good podcast. This is Dave again, and today I am excited to talk with a friend and a colleague, Matt Dibble. He's got a lot of things going on, and so I think I'll just let him introduce who he is and what he does.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Dibble. I'm a police officer. I work locally within Salt Lake County and been a police officer for 16 years.
Awesome. So you're with the old retirement system and the way things work, you're close to being done.
I am. I can't say that I'm not counting the days, but 3.5 years left, and then I will retire at 20 years.
Awesome. So you're in law enforcement now. Is that all of what occupies your time? I think people sometimes see someone who has a job and that's their job. That's what they do. That's what they live and breathe. What does an officer do on their off time? What do you do on your off time?
Yeah, my off time, I do anything that is not law enforcement related. I do spend a lot of time with my family. I got 2 daughters.
Cool.
So I'll do something as small as, take them out, do like a daddy-daughter date or something like that. I recently got a trailer, camping trailer. So I've been hitting the campsites all throughout the middle northern end of Utah.
Yeah.
Camping and taking the family out.
Fun. So did you grow up with camping, and that's the kind of thing you wanted to make sure that your family experienced?
Actually, I did. Not as much as we have as a father taking my family out, but I grew up part-time in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
And so we spent a lot of time in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Yeah.
And
it's a beautiful place.
Oh, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right on the coast there. And we would camp and go to Busch Gardens and things like that.
Yeah.
And,
As a law enforcement officer now, and because you're basically close to retiring that full career service time, is that something that you always wanted to do?
Believe it or not, it's not. I previously, before law enforcement, I was actually in the music business.
Okay.
And when that went downhill, I didn't know where to go, what to do.
That's kind of a big jump.
It is a big jump.
From entertaining to...
Yeah, because I really had no, dreams of being a law enforcement officer or whatnot. But a friend of mine who works for Utah County Sheriff's called me and said, "Hey, have you thought about maybe changing your career path into law enforcement? It's good job security and such." And so I looked into it, and I was living in Ohio at the time, and I made my move out here to Utah and joined the Corrections Academy and started at the prison.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, whether junior high or high school, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do as an adult, to grow up and pursue something?
I always saw myself as a pilot. My father is a retired Navy pilot.
Okay. So were you thinking military or just flying in general?
At the time, I was actually never thinking about military. I wanted to be just like some type of private pilot or commercial pilot.
Sure.
My dad went through the Naval Academy, and you have to have pretty good grades. And as far as academically, I wasn't there, but I knew I could, find a way to make that happen, which I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I'm currently going through flight school.
A childhood dream or a teenage dream to become a pilot is coming around. Maybe that's the second half of your adult career lifetime experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Once I hit my 20-year mark in law enforcement, I'm looking to get a career in a pilot program or flying commercial.
Yeah. What about flying attracts you? Is it a speed thing? Is it the freedom, or what did your dad do that made you think that's pretty cool? I want to do that.
My dad got me involved. He would literally take me out to the tarmac, also on the aircraft carriers, and I get to see, got to see the planes up close. And Top Gun came out back in 86, 87, something like that. And it's just always been in my blood.
I think anybody at that age, from like 9 to 15, whatever you're introduced to, if you see somebody else that's doing it and you get sort of a hands-on experience of seeing those things up close and live and loud, it doesn't have to be flying. It could be anything, right? It could be a guitar. It could be a lot of things that make you go, I need to do that. That's for me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we all have some type of idol that helps you remember that feeling and oh yes, I want to do that. I want to be that type of person. And for me, being a pilot, that kind of my idol, it kind of sounds generic, but it was my dad. As far as being a pilot. Yeah.
Cool. Did he have stories that sort of made you think, oh, this is going to be so cool being a pilot? Or maybe scary stories that made you think, what would I do in that situation?
Yeah, he's shared stories off and on, growing up. He flew small planes for a while. Then he transitioned over to the double blade helicopters, the Chinooks. And he just shared stories like flying in the Philippines and landing on rocks on the shore and stuff. It was just very interesting how he had fun with his career.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you experience that now as you're flying and going through school? What is that experience like?
I do. For me, it's just a great getaway. I've been flying solo now since October of last year, 2019, and not having an instructor in the co-pilot seat and knowing that, all right, I'm responsible for this airplane, to get it up and down, back on the ground. Just enjoying the views. It's almost a challenge. I think a challenge is what keeps me
making sure that you're on it.
Yeah, make sure you're on it. You have to be in front of the plane, not behind it. Again, for me, it just always comes down to the views. When I post things on social media, I'm usually posting stuff flying. Yeah. And just gotta love it, and I want to share it with everybody else.
That's cool. So your end goal with flying is to potentially be a full-time pilot, commercial or private, however that works out, some sort of program. How does your family feel about that? Is there a lot of away time with that?
My parents are very supportive of that. My wife is very supportive of it.
She probably thinks bonus is traveling to different places.
Yeah, she loves the idea. In the news, in the media lately, there's been a few small plane crashes, and so that kind of concerns her. Yeah. But I kind of help her understand that, usually these errors are either of, pilot error, just making the wrong decision, or not following the flight instructions, or.
So you can point out the details clearly enough that she understands that what you would have done in that situation to prevent it from happening.
Exactly.
That's cool. And that probably has to feel good to be able to have that kind of confidence in your own knowledge about what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Law enforcement to pilot. You have anybody that's sort of making fun of you or thinking, oh, you couldn't handle it, you want to finish the law enforcement thing and move on to something else? Or are people kind of jealous, like, that's cool, I want to do that too?
Yeah, I haven't had anything negative as far as responses like that. I think I've kind of seen that a lot of people have been thankful for my career, and they understand my career, especially these days. Yeah. And they also understand why, at some point I would want to get out, but I also commend those that are still getting into law enforcement and continuing to do good for the people.
With the current climate of what's happened in 2020, it feels like there's a lot of misunderstanding as to what it takes to try to support a community. And you're only one person in an army of, I don't know, an army might not be the right word, right? But you're in a group of people that I think for the most part are trying to make a positive contribution to what's happening in the world. And I think that it's unfair that with that kind of dedication and wanting to help, that not that you should continue for another 10 or 20 years, but that, okay, I'm done, I'm out. I don't want to have to worry about this anymore. It's kind of sad that that's kind of the direction it's going.
Yeah, the stress of the job can really wear you down. And so doing 20 years in law enforcement, I think is a great ending. in that career and then moving on to something different. I think it's healthy to move on after that and find something new that's you can do as far as being creative or making your wife happy.
Sure. The purpose of this podcast is to try to motivate people to find the things or thing that helps them get through the day. And oftentimes that's kind of a selfish personal thing. Some people just want to go home and watch movies to kind of deal with the balance of what's happened for the rest of the day. And other people, their job is their bliss. Their job is creative. Their job is so fulfilling to them that that's okay. Where would you say that you fit in that, with your job being fulfilling and having to do something for yourself to sort of decompress and unwind? Like teachers, when the day is over, I've already given so much that it's difficult to give at home when my kids need help or whatever. Do you feel like your job is like that, where it sort of sucks your good out? How do you replenish that good? Gotcha. Is it through camping, or are there other hobbies or things you can invest in yourself that sort of recenter you? Yeah,
this job at the end of the day can really put a toll on you, and the last thing you want to do is come home to your family and relay that bad day you've had or whatnot. And I've found, besides camping and such, I need to find my woo-saw, so to speak, and find my alone time just to kind of gather myself. And I do that by mowing the lawn. I love mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
I'm very articulate about my lawn and having it edged perfect. And
something that you can spend time in, see a product at the end, and you feel good through every step of it, knowing that it's leading to something.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's only 6 months out of the year.
That's true. The rest of the time, I work in music business. I do songwriting as well.
Okay. So that's something that hasn't totally gone away. That's still a part of who you are and what you do.
Right. Yeah. I've written lots of songs, but I've yet to put, music together with it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just expressing words and getting it out.
That's awesome.
Kind of helps me.
Do you have any kind of goal that eventually you do record a CD? I mean, we're at the point in technology where with the right room or closet, you can record it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I have my own little recording studio in my basement, but right now it's covered in crafts and stuff for my wife. So it's time to take off the crafts and dust and maybe put something together.
But is that a goal? I mean, I don't know all of your music background. I know that you do have experience in it. Is that a goal, to eventually produce something for people to enjoy?
Yeah, I think that's always been my goal. I started in an a cappella group, and so just music in general is a great way for me to de-stress as well.
Yeah. What genre of music do you enjoy listening to? And then what type of music do you enjoy producing or creating?
Yeah. My music is very left to right. I mean, I'll listen to anything from classical to, R&B.
Yeah.
I would say my central location is probably, it's changed, but, back in the days, it used to be kind of a pop R&B that I enjoyed. I really love Motown classics. Those are
good harmonies,
great harmonies,
good melodies. Yeah.
And just kind of smooth, So now it's more, I enjoy like 311 and kind of,
so stuff that we grew up with,
pop rock,
stuff that might be considered, I don't know, it's classics now. Kind of the oldies.
Yeah, anything over 20 years, I think, is vintage, right?
Yeah. Cool. So the stuff that you produce, is it like with a computer with the drum beats and the things that are already there, or is it more acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums?
It's a mix of both. I will sometimes use a guitar. I actually can't read music, but I can play it and find something and memorize it.
Yeah.
Even with the piano.
And I think that's a valuable tool, because you have that ear to be able to hear what needs to happen instead of being stuck with what's written.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I have some early 2000 digital recording equipment that I use. And, I got it's an 8-track, but you can change it to a 72 virtual track recording. So I can put plenty of music on there.
Cool. At the end of the day, obviously, there's not always the focus and the time. If you spent your day solving problems and fixing puzzles and dealing with people, you go home, there's not enough steam to create a track or to put anything down or to even play through anything. But that is still something that you value as a way to express yourself.
Yeah, I really love music. It's just a great getaway for me. You know, if you could play life with music behind you.
Yeah. Have your own soundtrack.
Yeah.
Behind it. That would be cool.
It'd make your life a little more fun.
Yeah. Knowing that law enforcement is pretty difficult and stereotypically macho, the guys are tough and they look kind of scary. And maybe that's some of the stereotype that people don't feel comfortable interacting with police officers. What's it like when the people that you work with find out that you have a music background?
Well, that's actually funny that you say that. When I first started in law enforcement, they do a background check.
Yeah.
And I never mentioned anything about my music. And when they called, I think they called one of my younger sisters, and my younger sister brought up that I was in a boy band.
Uh-huh.
Came out that way.
She had to use that phrase.
Yes. And that stuck with our lieutenant that was doing the background check, and word kind of got out. And so, the guys and girls in the department kind of push that around and make some fun of it. But I can play right along. It's not.
But then, about a year or two ago, there was a kind of a competition of different groups. I can't remember what the competition was, but it was sort of like put out a YouTube video, do some sort of lip sync, and see if somebody else can make something better. Yeah,
that was 2 years ago, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Police departments all over the world were doing lip sync competitions.
Yeah,
and someone brought it to my attention, and of course, everyone pointing fingers at me like, "Hey, you should be the one that should
organize this for us."
Organize that for us. And
so, did that help with morale in the city, in the general or surrounding area of people interacting with police officers?
You know what? I think it did. It was mostly positive comments. We posted on our local or on our department website.
Yeah.
And reading the comments it was probably about 95% positive.
Yeah.
And I think people really enjoyed it and saw that we were humans. And, not
that's
just
awesome. Yeah, I think that's important, that if you never have any interaction with somebody who is a professional in any field, you don't know really what they deal with. And so to see people who have to do a hard job, whether it's coming up on an accident or whatever, and dealing with those difficult things, but then you also see that they know how to sort of have fun and not be totally serious. And that's got to be a good feeling for the community. So you've got growing up a little bit with music, you've got getting into law enforcement, and now you're pursuing your pilot license and that experience. Have you ever felt like you weren't on the right track? Like you were going in some direction, you didn't know where you were supposed to be? Why can't I have a career like everybody else that is the duration of their life and not chopped up into segments like I couldn't do this and I'm going to do that? Have you ever had that feeling?
I have had that feeling. And growing up, I've come up with the 4 F's. That's what I call it. And it's failure, family, freedom, and faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of use those 4 F's as far as that's how I'm going to use my life to make certain changes or stay with these certain changes to fulfill, or accomplish these things as I go through my life. For instance, like failure for me, when at a very young age, I was diagnosed with, it's called Mixed Expressive Receptive Disorder.
Okay.
And it has to do a lot with, for instance, like you asking me a question.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you just said, but my mind won't let me, it won't let me process. I don't know how to explain this.
Like a misunderstanding or a miscommunication?
Like a misunderstanding. Like I know what you just said, but my mind doesn't let me express my answer to you a certain way.
Which can be emotionally frustrating.
Which is very emotionally frustrating because I still deal with it today.
You feel like people don't understand what you're trying to say, that you haven't quite said what you want to say yet.
Yeah.
Or that what you said isn't what you meant.
Yeah.
Or what I said isn't what I meant. Interesting.
Yep. So having that and still today, I still have that issue. It's made it hard for me, but I try to look at it in a positive way and even though I don't want to say I'm a failure at it, but because what my understanding is, it's actually not a learning disability. It's just a medical issue of some sort.
Well, that has to create an understanding for the people that you deal with, whether they're older people or younger people, especially as an officer coming across different age groups or people from different cultural experiences. You know how other people feel if they feel like they're being looked at differently or misunderstood or...
Right. Yeah, it's come to an advantage like that.
Yeah.
And so it's helped me in that sense. And just, for instance, like right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my brain is trying to think how I can say it and how to get it out, and it won't come out.
Yeah. But that's powerful for me. I think in dealing with students, particularly for me in a high school setting, previously in a junior high setting, where kids are interested in things, but they're afraid to express that because they don't know how other people are going to treat them. Knowing that other people feel the same way and want to be happy, I want to do everything I can to make that kid feel like they can accomplish that. And recognizing what your own weaknesses are is critical, and knowing that they're overcomable. And there's a better word for that. They're something that can be not changed, but addressed, rehearsed, practiced through to the point where other people know who you are and they're not thinking that there's anything wrong.
And that's a great way to put it is even though it's a weakness, you can use it as a strength.
Yeah.
For me, I could read a sentence and not have an idea what I just read, but I have to read it a few times for me to get it. Again, I've always kind of struggled with that, but I've been able to overcome those things.
Right.
For instance, maybe not so much in music. Coming into law enforcement, there's a particular area in the police academy where you have to learn law.
Yeah.
And the wording itself can be very
definitely
all over the place. But I really had to study hard on that.
Yeah.
Even in flight school, math is not my forte at all. And so I really had to, study hard and read over and over and over. So I have to work that a little bit harder than everybody else. And
that gives me chills. It's a fantastic example of kids who maybe have a goal, but they don't know how to accomplish it. And people around them may or may not know and don't know how to support them or see that there's a problem and maybe help them, make them feel like they can't accomplish it. But you're showing us that whatever it is that you want to accomplish, whether that's law enforcement and having to learn law and code, or being a pilot, which is kind of a life or death situation when you're actually flying, that you have the ability to overcome that and show competency in that. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. I've seen the progress, from, I must have been like 9 or 10 when I was first diagnosed, till now. Beforehand, becoming an adult, I didn't want to pay, my bills or anything like that. But then you have to really think hard and put your mind to it and realize that you can do it. You just got to put your mind to it and figure things out.
That's awesome. So that was your first failure. And then you have a few others that have helped guide you, I guess, through these experiences that you've had. Yeah.
And now being an adult and having a family, family was the second F. And that's just for obvious reasons. Now that I have a family, I have to, I got to be supportive and make sure they're fed and they got a roof over their head. But
when those little kids are little and they love you no matter what, and you come home whatever the time of day is, and they're excited to see you, it's a fantastic feeling knowing that somebody cares about you no matter what you just went through.
Oh, it's the best. I could have had a bad day and I come home and I mean, just yesterday, my little 3-year-old came up to me and said, "Daddy, you're home," and gives me a hug. And that just totally makes me forget about my day.
Have there been examples where you're frustrated with something, and maybe vice versa, maybe your wife is frustrated with something, and you know just how to talk to each other to sort of work each other out of it?
Yes, and she also can sense if I've had a kind of a day or whatnot, and I can pretty much talk to her about anything, and just getting it out is a relief for me.
I'm hoping that as our society changes a little bit, that we can address that. Guys are often seen as stifling of emotion. They don't want to talk about anything, but it really is one of the best ways to deal with stuff.
It is, yeah. As you know, being a guy, it's a little more difficult to express your feelings. But my wife has really helped me get through, these hard times and just expressing myself and getting it out.
That's awesome. So then we have, remind me of the last two. I don't have your list in front of me.
That's okay. Yeah. So these are just items that drive me.
Yeah.
Freedom, just the opportunities. I think we have we live in the best country in the world, I think. And even though everything that's going on in the world today, I still believe we have the best country in the world, and the opportunities we have in this country is just immaculate. And again, like I said, I've worked in music. I've, currently work in law enforcement. I'm now currently working to be a pilot. There's just so many options that any of us can go for as long as you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
Freedom is something I'll never take for granted. That's for sure.
We all experience it, but unless you've been somewhere or seen something else happen, it's hard to understand how much freedom we really have. We really do have the ability to change directions in a lot of ways. Yes. Whether it's where we live, whether it's what we're pursuing, whether it's we're going to school or not, whether it's we change jobs. There's a lot of things that we can do without any kind of fear of any kind of reprisal from government entities or whatever.
Exactly. And the last one is just faith, just doing good in the world.
Yeah,
being a good person, being an example to my own family, my own kids, and obviously living in the state of Utah.
I was going to say there's definitely an automatic expectation when you talk about the faith word, the F word, the faith word, that is connected to religion, and in a lot of instances it is. But I know a lot of people who are not religious or don't consider themselves religious, but they still, and they may not claim this, but they still operate by faith. They still operate by, if I'm a good person and I'm trying to help other people, that will create good.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a specific organization or whatnot. Yeah, just being a good person, I think goes a long way. And I've been grateful that my parents have shown me kind of that route of just be good and do good to others, and it'll come back around. And
it's kind of a positive thing too, to be in a direction of hoping for something better, hoping that things will turn out in a positive way for as many people as possible, regardless of who they are, where they're from. It's kind of a hard, abstract idea to swallow, but believing in something that is better and good and bigger for everybody, I think that's pretty cool.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, curious question, with your first part of your career in law enforcement and you're planning on going to piloting, hypothetical question, something happens and you can't fly, planes are gone. Terrible feeling. Nobody can travel to other countries unless it's by boat again for weeks at a time or whatever. And your plans are all gone. What do you do? What does the next part of your life look like if you can't fly?
That's funny to bring that up, because just yesterday I thought about that question. What would I do if I could not fly? Right now there's furloughs and such going on with aviation, and I thought to myself, what else would I do after this career in law enforcement? And I went on to Indeed.com, which is a job site, just kind of see the list of careers that are out there. And I don't know. I really don't know what else I would do. I thought, if anything, as far as just to have some stable income, I would just go work at Costco or something, and see what happens there. But other than that, I got to find some other things to love to do. Yeah.
That's refreshing for so many people. They feel like, well, that person has a plan. That person's going somewhere. That person's doing something. But what would you really do? That's that's fair. With your music experience, you could start anything with social media and YouTube and who knows what else, right? Patreon and that kind of thing. But that would take some time to develop. And is that really what I want to do? And how much time is that going to take? And
yeah, I don't know if I'd want to just jump into something I'm not too sure about, where I'd rather jump into something that I know I would love, or have had my mindset on something.
What about a landscaping business? There's money there.
There is. And I thought of a good name for it, lawn enforcement.
There you go.
Yeah. But
Do we need to trademark that? So nobody else
yeah,
steals
that's right.
it?
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But where I'm getting older, the physical part of it, I think, would affect me, and I need to look for something that's more desk worthy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. That's a fair answer. With this being the Own Your Good podcast, what does it mean to you, just generally speaking, to own your good? If anybody's listening to this, maybe they're a 15-year-old girl who's going into high school and they're nervous. What does that mean to them? Or maybe somebody else is in your shoes where they're close to a retirement, starting something new. What does it mean to you to own your good?
To me, to own your good is to just make a difference, whether it's for yourself or if it's for others. Be that positive, be that change, but make sure you take care of yourself.
So any last words of advice, not necessarily with owning your good, but maybe how would you give someone advice to go about finding that thing that they want to pursue and make their life career?
I would say that you got to make sure that's something you're going to love to do for a long time, especially if you're looking to make a career out of it. At first I didn't know I was going to get into law enforcement, and at the beginning it was very kind of scary. But now that I've been into it 16 years, you can actually learn to fall in love with, what you want to do or what job you're in.
Yeah.
So just find that niche, find that something that's going to grab you and carry you through your career.
All right. Well, Officer Dibble, I really appreciate your time today in talking about your experience, your life, and the things that some might take as an excuse to hold you back, but you figured out how to make it work for you, how to work through it and persist and accomplish the goals that you have, even if it seems difficult. I appreciate that example.
Thank you, David.
For those of you that are listening, I hope that this helped you to see that sometimes it's okay to have things happen that are difficult. Sometimes it's okay to have struggles, things that feel like they're pushing you back, but ultimately sort of challenge you to really think about what you want and how bad you want it and what you're willing to do to make it happen. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to do what you can to own your good. Thank you for joining me today on Own Your Good. I'd like to give a special thanks to Arches Audio. They are the ones that provided this awesome music. If you need anything for a project, I would go and check them out. They have a great selection of music and other services to help you with your creative projects. I hope that you found this valuable. If you enjoyed this episode and it did something for you, or you think somebody might benefit from it, please share this. It would mean a lot to me to help spread this positivity and this idea that people can change, improve, and ultimately own their good.